welcome to Colour Alchemy issue 13. I'm Led Sharp and I never thought I'd get this far. This is going to be another top 7 issue, and it's going to be the top 7 comics that I personally would recommend to non-comic readers. It's quite a strange list, to be perfectly honest with you, and it only includes one of the 3 great classics. You'll find out which one as the list goes on, and I'll explain why in the outro. It also includes a manga. Now, before I go on, I will explain why it includes a manga, even though you have to read it from back to front. I personally reckon it's not that hard to do, and if you can shift your gear stick in your brain to actually do that, then it opens up a whole new branch of comics, i.e. manga, to your reader. So that's why I've included it in here, and it's also an amazing story, of course. It's a branch of comics that I feel I will be doing another episode about in the future, manga. Anyway, I'm not trying to prove how comics are cool in this video. There are cool comics in it, obviously, but I'm not trying to prove how great the medium is. I'm not trying to prove how arty the medium is. I'm just trying to prove how accessible the medium can be by having a wide variety of genres. And whilst there are no Marvel or DC comics in there, there will be a top 7 Marvel and DC list to go with this, as well as a top 7 advanced list. Anyway, I'll explain a little more in the outro. Here's the top 7 list. Granville by Brian Talbot. Talbot is a comic genius, and while I would recommend any of his work, Granville is the most accessible, despite being about an anthropomorphic badger in a steampunk world who solves intricately crafted crimes for the police. The art is incredible, and you soon get over the whole animals as people thing, as the themes, action and content are mature, rather like a fine claret. Beautifully bound, stunning to look at, and while the subject matter is heavy, the read is smooth and joyous. Hellboy, created by and these days overseen by Mike Mignola. Hellboy is equal parts crime noir, Lovecraft, Hans Christian Andersen, and while there are a lot of these comics, including a lot of spin-off series, making this more of a universe to get into, there are around 12 in the initial run, and if you get into Mignola's unique brand of deep atmospheric horror, mystery, mythology wrangling, then you will be rewarded with a comic that does nothing but give you solid storytelling and excellent direction. Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This multi-award-winning comic is considered an all-time classic, and indeed the only one of the 3 greats to make it onto this list. It's the biographical story of Spiegelman's father surviving Auschwitz, and while it's harrowing, it's also deeply personal and beautifully told. It was actually taught in German schools, and at the time it was released in South Africa in opposition to apartheid. Mouse will appeal to those who like history, war stories and tales of survival, at least physically. Black Science by Rick Remender and Italian artist Matteo Scalera, published by Image Comics, it is a perfect science fiction comic ideal for somebody with a penchant for off-the-wall visuals and strong characterisation. The plot follows scientist Grant McKay and his crew made up of family and company board members, as they travel a multiverse of increasingly insane beings, creatures and superheroes. It combines Lost in Space with Lovecraft, all painted by Salvador Dali on LSD. There's 8 books in this series, and while they are a hurlitzer to read sometimes, they are always compelling. Calvin and Hobbes by Bill Watterson. Calvin and Hobbes is the definition of charm and reinvigorates the genetic memory of childhood, and if your childhood wasn't great, it allows you to visit a perfect one through the talents of a master craftsman. You may have read the odd strip, but in chunks those strips form stories that are as moving as they are funny. Watterson became a contemporary for many of today's cartoonists and creates pure magic. Chew, written by John Layman with art by Rob Gilroy and published by Image Comics. Chew follows the story of cop Tony Chew, who lives in a world that is a jump to the left of ours, where avian flu caused a panic and made chickens illegal as a foodstuff. Tony, like many in this setup, has a food-based psychic power. Tony can read anything he eats. For example, if he puts a burger in his mouth, he knows everything that went into that burger and how, so it's rather unpleasant when you think about it. There's 8 books in this series, and they just keep getting better as they go along with increasingly out-of-this-world concepts. Death Note is a Japanese manga series written by Sagumi Oba and illustrated by Takeshi Obata. Please forgive any mispronunciation. And brace yourselves, because this is one you're going to have to read from back to front. There's 12 books, and you may need to make notes, as this supernatural crime tale of a battle between a super detective and a fascistic college student with the ability to kill with a notepad and pen escalates to such a crescendo I finished the last one out of breath and needed a lay down. But while it's one to work at, it's bloody brilliant and are good for expanding your experiences. So there you have it. You may think, well, why did he include that? Why did he include this? Right. The reason I didn't include, of the three classics, which are The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen and Mouse, the reason I didn't include The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen is purely because you need a degree of specialised knowledge and maybe an advanced reading of comics to understand them and appreciate the deconstruction of the superhero genre, the deconstruction of iconism, and so on and so forth that goes on in those comics. They are incredibly powerful art house comics that serve a multiple purpose, whereas Mouse, despite being incredibly heavy, beautiful and artistic, is a very straightforward story. It will tell you the exact account of Art Spiegelman's father surviving Auschwitz. That's why I included that one. It's easier to get into, even though it's hard to read as an emotional journey. Like I said, Death Note, that gets more complicated as it goes along. So you it's a good training exercise for a new reader, I feel. So yeah, I've included that one. As I said, I will be doing Marvel and DC because obviously people know Superman, they know the Avengers, they know all these things, and I am going to do some tie-ins with movies to sort of say, look, if you enjoyed this, you will enjoy that. That's also going to be some more tie-ins with 4-Color Celluloid, which I will be doing shortly. Anyway, it's an absolutely hot, sweaty, disgusting day. I need another cup of coffee, and yeah, there you go. I hope you enjoyed the list. Add some comments, join the group on Facebook, and take care and have fun reading comics.